All right, we're going to take a minute to review for the Unit 4 test, math test. We're using the assessment out of the student activity workbook. We're going to look at the first 4 problems in this lesson. Problem number 1 says the number of ash trees on a tree farm is 5 times the number of pine trees. Write an equation that compares the number of ash trees, and you're going to use the variable a, and pine trees, p. So when I look at the problem, I need to examine the information carefully. It says the ash trees on a tree farm is 5 times the number of pine trees. So however many pine trees you have, you're going to have 5 times as many ash trees. So one way you could write this would be that A equals 5 times P. Or if you think of it another way, if you take the number of ash trees, since it's 5 times as many as the pine trees, if you divide that by 5, that will tell you how many pine trees there are. All right, let's look at problem number 2. Katie canned 182 quarts of tomatoes last week. She canned 259 quarts of tomatoes this week. How many quarts of tomatoes, Q, did Katie can over these 2 weeks? Write an equation, then solve. So make sure you always read the directions carefully. There's 2 parts to this. We need to write an equation, and then we need to solve it. So as I look at this problem, I'm trying to find out what kind of information I have, and I see that I have 182 quarts. If I add 259 to it, I will find the total amount that she canned over the last couple weeks. And we're going to call that Q. So that's the equation. Solving that problem then, I'm going to add those 2 together. It seems like this would be an appropriate operation to add them together. 9 plus 2 is 11. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 8 is 14. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So one method that you could use to solve this would be to add them together, and your answer is 441 quarts. Let's look at problem 3. Elliot sends 217 text messages each week. Write equations to find out how many text messages he sends in 4 weeks and in 7 weeks. So, if he sends 217 text messages in a week, one possible equation could be, if you take 217 and multiply it by 4 weeks, equals text messages. You could also write it as 7 times 217 equals T. Now, using those equations, let's complete the table. We know that in 1 week, he sends out 217 text messages. In 4 weeks, I need to figure out how many text messages he sends. So using my equation above, if I take 217, I'll multiply it by 4. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So in 4 weeks, he sends out 868 text messages. Now I'm going to use this equation to figure out how many text messages he sends out in 7 weeks. So 217 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. So in 7 weeks, he sends out 1,519 text messages. So in this problem, I wrote the equations, and then I figured out how many text messages he sent in 1 week, 4 weeks, and then 7 weeks. Okay, last problem. We're solving for n, the unknown. Remember that when you have multiple operations like we do here, we have addition, division, subtraction, we use something called PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, and then finally addition and subtraction from left to right. And this tells you the order in which you need to do these math operations. So since we have parentheses, we're going to do that first. So 16 plus 12 is 28. I'm going to put that here. And I'm going to put divided by, and 11 take away 7 is 4. I know that. Equals n. Then I'm going to divide. 28 divided by 4 equals 7. So n equals 7. Okay, that's going to be all for this lesson.